When solving any type of equation, you're trying to solve for the variable. And in order to do that, you need to undo operations. So if something is added, you need to subtract. If something is subtracted, you need to add. If something is multiplied, you will divide. And if something is divided, then you will multiply. Let's take a look at this first example and talk about undoing those operations. So I want to solve for that variable. When you're solving an equation, the first thing that we're going to do is the number. So do this first. Then if you're attached to the letter, that's the one you're going to do second. So I look here and see that is a subtract or a minus 11. So I'm going to plus 11. And I'm going to do that to both sides. You want to be fair. What you do to one, you do to the other. That positive and negative 11 cancel. Bring down your 3y. Negative 17 plus 11 is negative 6. Then this is attached by multiplication. So I'm going to do a division. And then you have negative 6 divided by positive 3, and you get negative 2. If you would like to check your answers, you can. You're going to take your answer y and go put it in for the y. So you would say 3 times negative 2 minus 11 and see that it does equal negative 17. All right, let's take a look at example 2. And again, you're trying to solve for the variable. So just like a second ago, this is the one we're going to do first. And if I'm attached to the variable, that's the one I'll do second. So first, I see this is a plus 6. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. The plus and minus 6 cancel. Bring this down exactly as you see it is equal to 10 minus 6 is 4. Now, if I look at this, this is a divide by 5, so I need to multiply by 5. So multiply both sides by 5. When you do, look at this 5 in the numerator and this 5 in the denominator, and they cancel. It's kind of like when you have a fraction. If you have 5 in the top and 5 in the bottom, they just cancel. It's the same thing here. So then my final answer is A is equal to 4 times 5 is 20. And again, if you want to check, you certainly can. All right, example 3. We're solving for the variable. This is the one I'm going to do first. If I'm attached to the variable, I'll do that second. So I see this is a positive 21, so I'm going to subtract 21 from both sides. The positive and negative 21 cancel. Here, make sure you bring this down exactly like you see it. Make sure you bring that face with that body, so don't lose your negative sign. Equals, over here, 13 subtract subtract 21 is going to give us negative 8. And if you need help with your signs, be sure to go check out my video on the rules for positive and negatives. So here, this is attached by multiplication. So I'm going to do a division. When you divide, you must divide by exactly what you see. Exactly the same thing. So if this is a negative 2, you have to divide both sides by a negative 2. That's the only way for them to cancel. So then over here, I have a negative divided by a negative, which is positive 4, and it does check. All right, look at example 4. Now on this one, you can see that the whole problem is a division. When you have a fraction for the whole problem, you actually want to get rid of the fraction first. So go ahead and get rid of that big fraction first. So if that is a divide by 3, I'm going to multiply by 3. And once again, it's like having 3 over 3 as a fraction and those canceling. So the 3 in the top and the 3 in the bottom cancel. That's going to be m plus 4 is equal to negative times positive is negative 15. And then to solve for this m, I'm going to subtract 4. That's a plus 4, so I'm going to minus 4. They cancel. Negative 15 and negative 4 is negative 19. Okay, example 5. So, as all the other problems, I want to solve for the variable. I know that this is what's going to happen first. If you're attached with the variable, that's what's going to happen second. So I look out here and I see that is a negative 6. So I need to plus 6. So I'm going to add 6. The negative 6 and the positive 6 cancel. Bring this down exactly like you see it. And 9 plus 6 is 15. And then I see this is a divide by 2. So I need to multiply by 2. The 2 in the top and the 2 in the bottom cancel. And so x is equal to 15 times 2 is 30. And don't forget, if you would like to check, you certainly can. All right, let's take a look at example 6. Notice on example 6 that they rewrote it with the variable over here on this side. And that's okay if you want to keep it this way, or if you would like to turn it around and make it say 7 minus 5x equals negative 8, they're both the same thing. So it's just whichever way you want to solve it. So I'm trying to solve for the variable. This is what's going to happen first, and this is what's going to happen second because it's attached to my variable. And if you'd like, you could pause the video, try the problem, then restart the video to check and see how you did. All right, so this is what's going to happen first. Look right here in front of him. That's a positive. I don't see a negative, so therefore I know it's a positive. So in order to get rid of that plus 7, I'm going to subtract 7. And we got to do it to both sides. You got to be fair. So the plus and minus 7 cancel. Negative 8 and negative 7, if you put those together, you have negative 15. If you have 8 bad guys and 7 bad guys, well, they're on the same team, so you have a total of 15 bad guys. Over here, make sure you bring down the negative with the 5x. You got to bring your face with your body, so we know who you are. You're a bad guy there. Now, it's attached by multiplication, so I'm going to do a division. And we said just a second ago, when you're dividing, you have to divide by exactly the same thing. If you see a negative 5, you have to divide by negative 5. That's the only way to make that fraction cancel. Now, my answer, negative divided by negative, is a positive 3. So x equals positive 3. Okay, let's take a look at number 7. If you'd like to pause the video and try it on your own and then come back and check. So on this one, this is one where we have the whole fraction. Okay, so it's just a big fraction to begin with. And I do need to take care of that first. This is a divide by negative 2, so I'm going to multiply by negative 2. I have to multiply by exactly the same thing so that the negative 2 in the top and the negative 2 in the bottom can cancel. It's like over here. For those to cancel, they have to be identicals. So then I'm going to have to bring down my n minus 10 is equal to positive times negative is a negative 12. That's a subtract 10, so we are going to do a positive 10. The good guy and the bad guy knock each other out, minus and positive, equals, you have negative 12 plus 10, and your final answer is negative 2. Okay, example 8. We're trying to solve for the variable right here. And so we know that this is what's going to happen first. If you're attached to the variable, that's what's going to happen second. So this right here is a subtract 8. So we're going to add 8. So that way the minus 8 and the plus 8 knock each other out. 19 plus 8 is going to be 27. And then bring this down exactly like you see it. Now, there are a couple different ways to do this from here on out, and both or several are correct. This is the one that I think is the easiest. I'm going to look at this as a divide by 2. So I want to multiply by 2 to both sides. That way the 2 in the top and the 2 in the bottom cancel, and all I have is 3x. So that's the way that I like to do these. And then you've got 27 times 2, which is 54. Then divide by your 3, because that's attached by multiply. When they're joined at the hip like that, that means they're multiplied together. So divide by 3, and x is equal to 18, and it will check. Now, the other thing you could do right here, so your teacher might show you this way. Sometimes teachers will, instead of having a 3 over 2, they flip it over and make it 2 over 3, because 2 in the top cancels with 2 in the bottom, 3 in the top cancels with 3 in the bottom, and then you just have your x. But here's the deal. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. You have to be fair. So if I'm going to multiply that by 2/3, I have to multiply this by 2/3. And then you have those fractions to multiply, where you can say that 3 goes into 27 9 times, and 2 times 9 is 18. Same answer, so it's just whichever way you prefer. Okay, number 9, and if you want to, pause that video and solve for that variable a, and then come back and check with me. All right, the first thing we do is the number by itself, and then if you're attached to the letter, that's the second thing you're going to do. So to get this to the other side, look at his face. That's a positive. If it were a negative, I promise you they would put a negative out there. But it's a positive, so therefore I need to do a subtraction. So the positive and the negative 11 cancel. Bring this down exactly like you see it. Bring your face with your body. So that's negative 4a. Over here, if you have a negative 13 and a negative 11, they're all negatives. They're on the same team working together. So add those and you get negative 24. Now we want to divide, because that's attached by multiply. When they're joined at the hip or they're stuck together like that, that means multiplication. So we need to divide by a negative 4. Remember we said when you divide, you have to divide by exactly the same thing. If that's a negative 4, you have to divide by a negative 4. So a is equal to a negative over a negative, which is a positive 6. Okay, example 10. And this is one where they kind of, flipped the sides on you. And if you would prefer to rewrite this as 2m plus 1 over 5 equals negative 9. I mean, if you feel more comfortable, you certainly could work it that way. Now, why don't you pause the video and try and see how you do. So this right here is one where you have a huge fraction. The whole thing's a fraction. And so we need to get rid of that big fraction, the whole term that's a fraction. So if this is a divide by 5, I need to multiply by 5 to both sides. That way I have a 5 in the top and a 5 in the bottom. It's what we've been saying kind of throughout the video. A 5 in the top and the 5 in the bottom just cancel. So now I have positive times negative, which is negative 45, and then bring down your 2m plus 1 because those are gone. Now we're back to solving for the variable. And it's a situation where we know that we're going to do this first and this happens second. So this is a plus 1, so we're going to subtract 1. The positive and negative cancel, and I have negative 45 and negative 1 to get negative 46 equals 2m. That's attached by multiply, so I'm going to divide. So divide both sides by 2. Now I have a negative times a positive, a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative. And when I divide that, I'm going to get negative 23. And it does check. All right, the last two examples, I brought in some parentheses with a little bit of the distributive property. So the first thing is to take that 4 and multiply it through. That 4 is kind of joined to that parenthesis by multiplication. So I will say 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 7 is 28. And then bring down your equals negative 16. Trying to solve for the variable. We know this is going to happen first. And if you're attached to the variable, that's going to happen second. So then I'm going to see that that's a positive 28. So I'm going to subtract 28. And that's going to bring down a 4x. And 16 minus 28 is negative 12. Attached by multiply, so divide by 4. And x equals negative divided by positive is a negative 3. And it's a check. All right, last one, and if you'd like to, pause the video, try it on your own, and come back and check your answer. All right, I hope that you knew to distribute first. Distribute just means to multiply that negative 4 through. Whenever there's a negative, I always draw my red warning flag, and if you watch my videos, you're going to see that red warning flag a whole bunch. But that just tells me to be extra cautious with the negative because the negative has to also go through to everybody. So negative times a positive is a negative 8x. Negative 4 times positive 6 is a negative 24. Now we are trying to solve for our variable, and I hope you knew that this is what you were going to do first, and that's what you would do second. This is a minus 24, so I'm going to plus 24 to both sides. You got to be fair. What you do to one, you have to do to the other side. Bring this down, and don't forget to bring your face with your body, so don't lose your negative sign. And then 16 plus 24 is 40. Now that's attached by multiplication. Remember we said when they're kind of stuck together. Even up here, isn't that kind of stuck together? And that's why we multiplied. So to unstick it, we have to divide. And if you'll recall, we've been saying throughout the video, you have to divide by exactly the same thing. That's only way a negative 8 and a negative 8 when they cancel the fraction there. And so I get x equals positive divided by negative is a negative 5, and it checks. If you need more practice on solving two-step equations, be sure to watch my teaching video on this topic. There you can see me work more examples, and again, you could even pause the video and try them on your own. See you next time.